Good morning, everyone. Merch Hunter Ricky here, and we're talking about the latest 3 chapters of One Piece, chapters 1091, 1092, and 1093. And these are the bulk of the beginning of Luffy versus Kizaru, with the latest chapter literally being titled that. I want to break down something that I've noticed in the latest chapter, and I'm sure other people have picked up on it too. A lot of notable YouTubers have talked about it in a more joking manner, but I think there's something more serious at play here, which is the fact that Kizaru is deliberately avoiding Luffy. And at first glance, it seems like he is doing that because he has a job to do. He's here to assassinate Vegapunk. He doesn't want to waste any more time. You know, assassinate Vegapunk, capture York, capture the mother frame, or whatever type of technology else he is supposed to get, right? And unfortunately, the situation has called for Kizaru to be directly in line against Luffy while Luffy is protecting Vegapunk. And the reason why I say unfortunate is because for Luffy, this is the chance for him to prove himself, yet the thing that he is trying to prove himself against is running away from him and kind of disregarding him, honestly. And unfortunately for Kizaru, he doesn't understand how stupid and how dangerous it is to disregard someone like Luffy. As you can see, Lucci, trying to pick up the pieces where he left off fighting Luffy, is now fighting Zoro because he took a stab at Stussy, took her out. He tried to take out Vegapunk, but Stussy took the blow for him, and because of that, Zoro tackled Luffy out of a building, and as they go crashing down, they start fighting. Lucci is now awakened, and this is now kind of becoming a big deal, right? Because now we're seeing an ex-enemy of Luffy fight Zoro. Luffy even looks down and remarks, "Oh, hey, Zoro, are you fighting? You need any help?" And, Zoro says, "Just focus on Kizaru," which is, pretty substantial. This is a very big win for Zoro. And because of that, sorry, my daughter is here and she's going crazy. Because of this, I don't care what anyone says. People are saying Admiral stock or CP0 stocks are going down, Zoro stocks are going down. I see this as a win for both, because if Lucci can land a hit on Zoro strong enough to injure him, it'll keep him at that top tier that a lot of people believe him to be at, right? Remember, fighting Gear 5 for the first time, most people are going to be too surprised to do anything but get their ass beat by Luffy, And I'm by no means a Lucci fan. I think he's cool. Not a fan. Back to Kizaru and Luffy, though. Kizaru has, avoided Luffy a few times now, with the most notable one being in 1093 when he split himself into a bunch of clones and then proceeded to go and choke the daylights out of Usopp and then, take a shot directly at Vegapunk in the Vega tank, which looks exactly like a TIE fighter. I love Star Wars, so that made me extremely happy. And I'm glad I'm not the only one that noticed. I saw a Randy Troy video earlier today and he noticed too, which is just rock on. But this is going to lead to a situation that has already started kind of building up. As we see, Saturn has no choice but to act at the end of the chapter, and this is because Vegapunk and Atlas have gone down to the lower area of Egghead Island. I forgot what it's called exactly, like the Labo phase or something like that. But they've gone down and they're going to go rescue Bonnie. And because of that, Kizaru, he has not been able to get them in one spot and assassinate them like he wanted to. He's been in front of Vegapunk twice now, I think. The first time he appeared in the little office where they were all hanging out, and that's where we saw Usopp getting choked, and then he ran away in the Vega tank. And then Kizaru, he's like, "Where are you going?" And, takes a shot at him. Luffy eats the shot and does that weird light prism thing with his body. That was very cool. But what I'm worried about is how long will avoiding Luffy work? How long will just going after Vegapunk work? We've seen a precedent already in the series before. To fight an admiral is almost as dangerous and as intense as fighting a Yonko, if not at the same level. And why is this? Because we saw two admirals, we know of two admirals fighting each other, Aokiji and Akainu. And because of that, they took, a week, 10 days actually, to fight and settle their differences. And at the end of it, Aokiji was left legless. And we don't really know how much damage or what happened to Akainu, right? We haven't seen his body. We don't know if he's been scarred up or messed up from that, but it looks like he kind of got the better of that exchange, and maybe he barely took any damage at all. But we now have a precedent set that two admirals roughly at the same level took 10 days to beat each other. With Whitebeard at Marineford, multiple admirals fighting him, and not only that, an entire army, the 7 warlords, and a bunch of pacifista. And it still took Blackbeard to jump in and actually seal the deal with Whitebeard's death. So now you got to ask yourself is, where is Luffy falling on this, power scaling system? He just took down Kaido, yes, but Kizaru has more killing intent than Kaido did, in my opinion. Kaido had more of a I want to fight Luffy attitude, whereas Kizaru is like, I would like to avoid Luffy, kill Vegapunk, and hopefully just get York and get out of here. That's what it seems. And as he's already stated, he says he's just a cog in the machine. And I feel like that is just simply for him taking the easiest road possible because he knows what it means to defy the world government. We don't know Kizaru's past. All we've ever seen, even with recent stuff being brought back into the fold of him knowing Sentomaru since he was a child, and showing Vegapunk how his powers work and all that, we've, got very little understanding of Kizaru and probably know the least about him compared to even Green Bull and Fujitora. We know more about them than we do Kizaru. All we know is Kizaru listens to the Celestial Dragons when he has to, or, basically at all times it's his job to listen. But we don't know why. We don't know if he truly loves the Celestial Dragons, if he wishes that he could be, attain that status one day. Maybe he already views himself as one. Maybe he lives in fear. We don't know. We know he has a very uncaring nature, and we know his justice is unclear justice. We know that because of his uncaring nature, that he tends to talk slowly, and recently we saw him talking in a more rapid, normal sense, and this led a lot of people to believe that he is now taking the fight seriously. But is that really the case? Because back in 1093, he took Luffy, Luffy threw him into the ocean, and Kizaru, did his little shadow clone or light clone jutsu, ran up to Usopp, choked him, and tried to kill Vegapunk again. This is the second time he's disregarded Luffy. And now Luffy is going to do something drastic. And that's not even bringing up the fact that Atlas has now caused Saturn to have to act. As we saw at the end of the chapter, she took control of the Mark IIIs, issued a new order, and they listened. Now Saturn is the only person that supersedes the authority chip. And this means he either has to get within talking distance of the Mark IIIs, or he will have to disembark from the ship entirely and put pedal to the metal and actually do something. We might have to, we might get his power reveal in the next 5 chapters or so. We might at least see him go toe to toe with Luffy. And that's something I'm dying to see. I personally don't think that it's going to go well if that does happen. It's looking less and less like Luffy and the Straw Hats will actually have a feasible escape. The Vega Force 1 has been destroyed, and honestly, General Frankie just doesn't seem big enough to pick up the Sunny. That could just be me. If he is big enough to pick up the Sunny, that'd be interesting. But again, I don't want to see the General Frankie get destroyed, and moreover, I don't want to see them coup de burst off the island. I think now is finally the time to stand up and, batten down the hatches and stand up to the world government for the first time, truly on a naval battle, and showing that the Straw Hats will not back down. And it seems like an insurmountable cause, very dangerous, and 100 ships versus 1 ship doesn't really seem like it's going to go the way they do. But it's Luffy and it's the Straw Hats. Something Oda can cook up hopefully would be better than just Kudo bursting out of there. I really don't, and I plan to make a video on the Kudo burst, on how it's kind of like a Kudo cheat. But for now, I just want to say, with Kizaru avoiding Luffy and Saturn being forced to act, this is the worst possible situation for Kizaru specifically. Now he has to kill Vegapunk, or the Gorosei will look at him as someone who could not get the job done, and they had to go act. How will he explain himself? And moreover, how will he deal with what Luffy concocts next? Because think about it, Luffy has been disregarded now by Kizaru, and he also does not want Vegapunk, aka Apple Gramps, to die. And he will do something extremely drastic. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the hollow gloves that everyone keeps bringing up. I genuinely think Luffy is going to go Gum Gum Giant again, or maybe he'll turn himself into clones, or he'll pick up a battleship or something and make it all cartoony and bounce it off another battleship. Who knows what he's going to do? But all I know is Luffy's next action and Saturn's next action are going to start in the next chapter. That is my full prediction and guess. I genuinely think that these two will both do separate things that will lead them to each other. And if Kizaru is still trying to kill Vegapunk and ends up unsuccessful in that endeavor, this can only spell out the worst case scenario for him. As always, at the risk of getting redundant, I'm going to cut the video here. My name's Merch Hunter Ricky. I've had a fantastic time talking to you all about Kizaru, Luffy, Saturn, and the situation currently ongoing at Egghead Island. One Piece is truly peak, and I could not be happier to be a fan right now. Anyways, have a good night, everyone.